What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi back here doing our second BetQL show. And I am really excited about this one because here over at BetQL and RotoQL, we've definitely got some different takes than is the industry popularity, I would say. We're going to focus a lot more on sports betting today at some point, but I want to start off by talking a little bit about what I love about different projection sites like RotoQL. This is an awesome situation to try and really like gain an edge if you buy into these projections, and I actually do. I've done shows already, having not looked at these projections and having looked at these projections, and I was already on the same page. And the most interesting one right off the bat is Westbrook is actually, for the first time all year at RotoQL, projected to be the uh, the higher scoring player between he and Harden, both on FanDuel and DraftKings. And obviously, you get a significant discount. You're probably going to get lower ownership. It's a really interesting spot in a way that you can build lineups. And you can see what I did here. Why I wanted to highlight RotoQL is because I made a lineup with the guys they liked a little bit more than the rest of the opponents, maybe the rest of the field. Some of them were chalky, like the Covington. But Hachimura is a guy who stood out. Gallinari is a guy who's absolutely loved on here over at RotoQL. Derek White, who I was on already, and it felt good to see a projection system go with me. I think this situation for the San Antonio guards is more fluid than people think, and these guys can play the three just like Lonnie Walker can. So I'm sort of interested in trying to, in some lineups, fade Walker. You can see I also have Walker in some, and I have Patty Mills in a couple. I'm going to probably end up with even, I might even end up one or two with some of them both. I have Bryn Forbes in some of these lineups. This is just the first go at it, but the one on the left, the one with the 5 entries right here, this is the one I wanted to focus on because it's sort of where the build would lead you if you were playing on, if everybody was just looking at this projection system. And what's great is you can do it and get pretty low ownership and make it actually a tournament lineup with the Hachimura play, and Horford will have some ownership. I don't think White is going to get much ownership. Westbrook, I don't expect to be very heavily owned. I think Jaylen Brown is an interesting play because I wanted to run it back if I was going to play Westbrook and Covington. I felt like it would be nice to try and run it back with somebody from the Celtics, and Jaylen Brown is the cheapest. I like him in this game environment, although I do also like Hayward a bit, and I like Kemba a bit. You can see I have Kemba over here in another versus Westbrook in another lineup. These are first drafts, guys. This is where we're at. I'm going to restart this right now because I want to welcome everybody who's just joining in because we had this show scheduled for 11:30. I want to make sure that everything's coming in clearly. So you guys, come on in and say something. Let me know what's happening. Say hello. We would love it if you could join us. So anyway, here's where we are. Give us your QQs, write all that stuff. We want to go back and forth with chat like we did yesterday. We don't have as many people in here yet, but we had a couple hundred people come in throughout the day yesterday at different, not necessarily at one time, but different viewers, and that was great. And we got a lot of positive feedback, so we want to keep that going. Thank you to all the BetQL members, the RotoQL members, and if you're not signed up, I did drop the little promo code. You can get 30% off your first month by using the code BobbyFi. And other than that, we're just going to be talking some DFS and talking some sports betting. We've got some great bets over here at BetQL that are a little bit different. Like I mentioned, the Westbrook versus Harden situation. Some of the supreme obvious values, we agree with the other sites. Lonnie Walker stands out. But I just want to warn everybody, even though I agree with that, and assuming that he's starting especially, I would like to play Lonnie Walker, which RotoQL would support. The problem is when you get that kind of ownership in that fluid of a situation, it's interesting, and I think it's worth at least speculating on some of the other guys in that game at lower ownership, like Patty Mills, like Bryn Forbes, like Trey Lyles. I don't like Aldridge on the back-to-back. Fading him is one of my big stances of the day. FanDuel values, we've got Steven Adams really high over here at RotoQL. DeJounte Murray is really high. DeJounte Murray is someone on FanDuel who's going to stand out for everyone, is going to be the mega chalk. And I just think there's other ways to go. Sure, he's a great play. I like him. It's a good situation and everything with no DeRozan. I think they might get just beaten down in that game. DeJounte Murray played 36 minutes last night. Lonnie Walker played 27. whereas Derek White only played 18, and I think Derek White is the sneaky play. So sort of using some of the tools also. We like Derek White over here. Have him projected. I don't want to give everything away, but I'm just going to take a quick look at the White projection on FanDuel and on DraftKings over here. On FanDuel, I actually think he's even almost like more interesting because like no one is going to play him. We've got him at about 5.5 times on his basically his projection, and I think that he's just a really interesting play, and he's a guy who at 4K is going to be off the board and could just as easily get that Lonnie Walker time, put up his 30 fantasy points, and you get him at 1/8 the ownership or something like that. Basically, that's about where we have it right now. Anyway, the another one we just want to mention real quick before we get into some BetQL stuff. I really like Chandler Hutchinson, but I'm skeptical. I like the minutes. I like the situation. I'm a little bit worried about it. We really like him at RotoQL. I have him, but probably not as much as I'd like. I have about 25% of him so far. Maybe that's an okay amount, so maybe I'm okay with that. But it's I guess I got him at 32%. We'll see how that one goes. I like him right now, but I'm hoping for maybe a little bit of better value to open up a little later on. Anyway, guys, again, welcome to the show. Happy to be working with the RotoQL, BetQL people. Jump on into chat, say what's up. Miss you, guys and everything. We got a question from Dan over here. Dan the man, Dan Karpik, my man over here. He wants to know what's my read on Rudy Gay. So the Rudy Gay situation is weird for me. I guess I could see it. They just never really seem to run him out the minutes that you want. And even in this situation, also, he's another old guy on a back-to-back. And he did play, he only played 17 minutes last night, but he hasn't played over 22. And I'm looking to see how long it's been. A long time. He played 31 once this year, 27 once this year. That was early in the season. I don't know how many minutes they'll run him out there for. I like him as a speculative tournament play. I have him projected in my separate projections, about 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, I think he actually is in play. But I would rather take a shot on Forbes in his 29 minutes, even though he's less productive. Obviously, he plays a less desirable position. Part of what makes such a great play out of Walker on DraftKings is that he's small forward eligible. We have some good forwards, but we mostly have a lot of really, really good guards. It's just been that way lately, and that's just sort of where it is. From a UConn fan who doesn't understand why he's not getting minutes. Oh, that's a really again. I don't know what's in Pop's mind exactly. I'm just guessing that he's just old now, and maybe that he can't play more than 24 minutes consistently this far into the season. But I'll tell you what, I certainly wouldn't mind taking a shot on it in some tournaments at what's going to be less than 5% ownership. I'm guessing. The best game stack or value tonight, asking from Edmondson. I think the best game stack is probably going to be a toss-up between the Portland New Orleans game and the what's interesting about tonight's slate is you've got a few good game stacks. The Washington Chicago game stands out, would be the other obvious one, but I think I like the maybe not as a full stack. Maybe you could do that on FanDuel, I guess, but I think I like the Houston-Boston game. Houston's going to keep playing fast. There's going to be more rebounds, more scoring, more assists, more steals, more everything to be had in that game. There's just going to be fantasy goodness everywhere. And that's partly why I'm all over Westbrook tonight. I don't really worry about Boston being like a stop. Houston will control pace at home. It's just going to happen. If everybody from Boston wasn't healthy, we'd be all over somebody. They just are all spread out now. So I'm sort of taking stabs on different ones to run back. But you put like a Westbrook, Covington, Jaylen Brown sort of thing. Not a full stack maybe because you don't want to necessarily play more than one Celtic. But I do think that playing one Celtic with either Westbrook, Covington, Westbrook House, Harden House, Eric Gordon being gone also does make a difference. Don't let that fool you. And I actually think on FanDuel there's some ways you can build Harden Westbrook lineups that make some sense with double small forwarding Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown. You can see I don't have that quite yet. I've got the Carmelo Ariza on my personal FanDuel lineups right now, but I'm definitely flirting with that idea. And I wanted to get my stacks. I guess this will bring a good moment to bring up Kobe White. Kobe White was mega chalk right after Chris Dunn was out and everything, and nothing's really changed. Chris Dunn and Valentine, and all of a sudden Kobe White is going to be unowned at a reasonable price because of these other perceived value, I like Kobe White a lot, and I think his upside is definitely there. I don't mind him with Levine because the combination of the prices, given the situation with no Dunn, I just see them having more and more opportunity. I also like Satoransky. This is not how I'm probably going to end up playing all three guards. I don't think that's optimal, but it's just to show you guys I'm definitely leaning somewhat in that direction. I really love Zion tonight. I'm going to say that a lot. He's underpriced. He hasn't had the right kind of game environment because they won by so much the other night. They sort of, got minutes cut short. This should be a competitive game, and I think Zion just absolutely smashes. And I love Kawhi as a pivot from every other power forward that they're going to play. I mean, people aren't going to play Kawhi and Paul George tonight. I like Paul George on DraftKings. On FanDuel. On DraftKings, I like Kawhi on FanDuel. The reason I don't like Paul George as much on FanDuel is not just that he's 400 more. It's that we can get some guys like, I'm okay with the Ariza. I don't love Ariza, but I'm good with. I'm okay with him. I think the opportunity is good enough as part of maybe a little bit of exposure to that good game environment. And Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward both stand out at 59 and 6,300. Okay, so Dan seems to like the Celtics Rockets also. So yeah, I mean that's where I'm at, man. Blazers Pelicans are the 240, but the one thing I would caution everyone is I think that we'll get into the sports bets in a minute, but I think that you should be aware of the Bulls getting this is still like the nut matchup for the Bulls. I like the Bulls side of it much better than I like the Washington side of that game. But when you play Washington, when you play New Orleans, when you play, it's like playing Coors Field in baseball. When you play the Rockets, this is the new look Rockets. This is the way it's going to be. These guys are going to play fast, and it's going to be very, very much focused on offense, very little defense. Portland has been playing terrible defense all year as well. Anyway, so there's a lot of good spots for what's a small slate. I like this slate better than the big slate. Usually I like the bigger slates better, but this particular one just feels like there's a lot of opportunity. I'm going to jump into some sports betting picks, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we like. And one other thing I'm going to keep mentioning, and I'm going to beat this as hard as I can. The combination of, if you look at things from a sports betting angle, you're going to become better at DFS. If you look at things from a DFS angle, it's going to make you better at sports betting. Try and think about how these things play out and how they lend themselves to each other. For example, we're going to talk about, one of our bets of the night here. We've got the best bet as the Celtics +2 at the Rockets. Boston is 17-5 against the spread when they play teams with winning records this season. That's great knowledge there. Now I'm rooting for the Rockets. I'm a Westbrook guy, obviously, so that hurts my feelings. But hey, when it comes to making money, nothing should hurt your feelings, and that's a fantastic number. A great stat there from the people at BetQL. And this is the kind of stuff they'll give you. There's rundowns on all of these things. If you join this site, you're going to see a lot of stuff that you're not gonna see elsewhere. We're going to have the show, by the way, up on their site coming soon. It's just technical difficulties with getting all this started, so we're using my YouTube channel for the moment. But I really like this spot. Again, for the Celtics, I'm sort of with these guys. I hate saying that because I'm rooting for the Rockets. But I do like the Celtics +2. I agree with the assessment of these BetQL bets. I really think that's a really, really savvy call to have the Celtics +2. But the more important information, that 17-5 against the spread with teams with winning records this season, that's a huge, huge factor. So I put a lot of weight in that, and that does tell you what kind of team the Celtics had. And also, by the way, maybe why they might be a little bit of a sleeper come playoff time. That's a whole different show that we'll probably do later in the season. But just keep it in mind. I actually sort of like the way they've sort of formed this team, and I've always been a big Kemba guy, so I think that they're actually really solid. Some of the other bets I'm looking at, I'm just going to update my BetQL screen because, again, we can't give everything away because people pay a lot of good money, and for good reason. This site is going to help you. If you're serious about making sports bets, this is going to help you. I think that it's interesting that all that numbers there, like a lot of the sharp money is actually on the Rockets, which is just kind of interesting. Another thing that we've got here. So you can have things that are conflicting information. While you might have a good bet, it doesn't mean that other sharps aren't going to like the other side of this. We got it wrong yesterday with and I got it wrong as well. But did we really get it wrong is the question, because that Minnesota-Toronto game was a terrific close game until basically the last few minutes of the game, and it got to be an 11-point game instead of a 9.5. I liked the call. I really thought that was smart, and I thought it was a really sharp play. And just, sometimes those things don't work out. Some of the other ones we did get right, but that one particularly felt like one that sort of just slipped away on us. Another one where the sharp money is that I'm going to disagree with, but I'm just going to give away a little bit of where we have the sharp money tonight. We have, I guess I disagree with the 2 sharp bets so far, but I guess, I disagreed with the 49ers in the Super Bowl also, so what do you know? The Spurs and Thunder, I think the Thunder are going to smash the Spurs. Now, I always feel nervous in today's NBA saying that with a team with a lot of guards who can shoot threes, but I really like the Thunder. Now, maybe +9 is a lot, but I am trying to fade this game from the Spurs, from the obvious Spurs plays, I should say, the DeJounte Murray's and the LaMarcus Aldridge's of this game. And thinking about how that relates, part of the reason I feel comfortable doing that is I think there's a path that leads to a Thunder just absolute smashing win. And also, I'm fading the Thunder players except for Gallinari for that reason as well. Not entirely, but just for the most part. And it's because I really think that there's a good chance this game does blow out. And most importantly, Aldridge is very bad on back-to-backs. I think that when he gets to be crazy chalky like this, I think it's time to try and find other plays on a 5-game slate. That's the DFS part of it, but how it relates to the regular game, partly you're justifying it to yourself by saying, hey, maybe the Thunder are going to blow them out. But I just think that on the back-to-back, the way the Thunder play, in my opinion, this is going to be a hard game for the Spurs. So I really like the Thunder actually in this one, and I hope that they do win by more than 10 because I'm trying to fade this game, and that would be helpful. A couple other ones, just maybe not so much just in terms of who we like to win. So maybe we'll get to some money line talk. We'll get to some totals. One of the totals. So the over has hit, and this is again from the BetQL people, great information. The over has hit for Portland on the road in the past 5 games. A lot of that has to do, Lillard had to go nuts, partly because their defense is so awful. You have the Blazers facing a Pelicans team that just plays lightning quick. You have a 240 total, and we have this as a 3-star rating where we like the Blazers. I'm sorry, we like the total to go over with the Blazers and Pelicans. I am completely on board with this. I 100% agree. It's another reason why you like this game for DFS. It's a little tricky. We need to find out about Ingram before we make any hard decisions, and I'm always looking at my phone to just make sure that I've got everything updated on that. Anyway, here we go. Let's get back to some of the DFS stuff just for a real quick minute, or actually we'll get to some questions because I've got a few I think in the chat that I haven't quite got to yet. All right, let's see. Korkmaz and Trent ownership. I think Korkmaz is going to be unowned, which is weird. Look, it doesn't make sense to play him. He's not going to do the same things from one perspective, but if no one's going to chase, I always say that maybe that is the time when you should chase. What if he just stays hot and puts up another monster number at literally no ownership? It's not going to be anything, and I don't think Trent's going to be either. So I think you're talking about both of them unowned, basically, and I support the Korkmaz side more so for tournaments. And I'm going to have to redo some of my builds because you can see these are I'm paying all the way down on a slate where I don't really love paying all the way down. But I really like a lot of the mid-tier, high-end plays, and I'm not even getting enough of the guys I like. I love Whiteside. I only got 21% of them right now. I love Covington. I only got 26% of them right now, partially due to ownership. Anyway, guys, get some more QQs in. Let us know what other stuff you want to hear about, what other stuff you want to see. But you've got our bets so far for the day. I really like the Celtics +2 at the Rockets, which is, again, going against what some of the sharps out there are thinking. But 17-5 against the spread when they play teams with winning records this season. It's been sort of anybody's guess as which Rockets team shows up lately a little bit. They, dominate the Lakers and get smashed by Phoenix. I know it was without Westbrook, but that shouldn't happen. Total over 240, Blazers, Pelicans. I really like that total. And one that I'm not going to give away because I don't want to give away what we have on everything, but one other total that I'm sort of flirting with maybe betting on tonight is the Washington-Chicago game not being a little bit higher. I think Dunn being out and the way that big men are going to effectively play for the Bulls, I think you're going to see them play a faster, and between Ish and Napier running the show in Washington, I think you'll see Washington playing faster, or not faster, but still continuing to play fast. I think that total is one that I would attack the over on as well. I always feel nervous betting unders in games in general, but if there was one I would bet the under on, it's actually the San Antonio OKC game. I'm just not sold on this game being as competitive, and I could see it being a dud from San Antonio's side especially. So that's where I'm leaning. That's just me personally. I'm not going to give you what all the RotoQL stuff says on that one, but that's where I am. Anyway, guys, get some more QQs in, get some thoughts in. Want to talk another thing about DFS. You could see I threw Napier into a lineup here. These are purely speculative. Like, this is something that here on RotoQL, we don't actually have Napier highly rated from a point per dollar standpoint. I'm actually going to find out where roughly he is. It's more of a speculative thing. Actually, you know what? We've got him much higher over here, again, at a little over 5 times value than we do on some of my other projection sites. And I think it's worth speculating that maybe Napier, what if he gets more minutes than Ish and it goes that direction? What if he ends up just getting hot and getting more of the run? He can crush that value at what will be no ownership versus where Ish, assuming that Ish is starting, is going to be, 20% owned. You're going to get Napier at, I think much lower. I guess he's not going to have no ownership, but much lower ownership than I think he should. I really like Napier quite a bit. Maybe the rest of the projections will catch up and he'll be owned somewhere. But as of right now, I don't have him being too highly owned yet. But I could see that changing easily. And obviously, we still have major Brandon Ingram news to go before we decide anything. Ask some questions about my lineups. Make some comments. Tell me what you love. Tell me what you hate. Really love Zion tonight. Gonna have him in. He's in half my big ones right now. Probably being more than that by the time the day's over. Like Rui, which I told you on the the RotoQL BetQL site. This is a guy who stands out like crazy. I also want to take this time to remind you guys, like, this is a really, really awesome app for you guys. I mean, this RotoQL Express, I think it just makes you, like, you could do so many things by just looking at this for 5 minutes, and it'll give you the plays you need to know for the day. It absolutely is like you don't need to be, we obviously have a lot of intelligent people watching, but if you're not intelligent, or if you are, this will be helpful either way. If you're intelligent, it'll give you, basically a quick little way to make a lineup in no time. And if you aren't, you know what? It'll do the same. So it's actually helpful equally to all those out there, intelligent or not. I don't really know why I went on that little rant, but just thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick look, see if you guys are talking up in chat, because usually we get a little more commentary going. It looks like some people are starting to pop in. All right, real quick. How would I decide between Spurs value and a single entry? Depends on how I built the rest of my lineup. If it was against the chalk, the rest of my lineup, I think that Walker still makes the most sense, assuming he's starting. But if it was a more chalky build, the rest of your lineup, I think I would lean to try and get a Forbes, a Mills, somebody like that, potentially a Lyles in there instead. Lyles getting a little bit of the other value, that same thing that, he gets that forward eligibility, which is a little more valuable, I think, than the guard spot tonight. You can see in, I think, all of my major lineups, yeah, I've got guards in the utility spot, which is the way that I'm going to be building tonight. The one, sort of weird example of that is I do have Jaylen Brown in a guard spot in one spot, but that's just because I wanted to get the run back in that particular example. Anyway, let's see. Top 4 core plays. Core plays for me, I will tell you who my 4 highest owned players are at the moment. They would be Westbrook, Zion, Levine. It's Walker on DK at the moment, not so much on FanDuel. I don't know if I have him in any of these bad boys. Not yet. I'm paying up at shooting guard on FanDuel at the moment. Sort of the way I'm leaning. I'm also considering the build of paying all the way down or all the way up at point guard. I like Satoransky as a lower owned play on FanDuel going back to Washington. Take a quick look at where we have him on RotoQL, because I think so far RotoQL has agreed with me above the other sites so far. So I've looked at the projections, but I don't have it on everybody. And again, we like Satoransky on DraftKings. Don't like him quite as much on FanDuel. I am going to go on a limb and say that's why he's going to become a good tournament play over here. I think you're going to see a lot of pace in this game. I like the over, as I mentioned. And I went for the weird PJ Tucker play, by the way, at center. Not sure I'm going to stick with that one. I'm hoping we get some other value that I'm going to pick on. But FanDuel is tough today, man. I prefer the DraftKings builds, to be honest with you, today that I do FanDuel. But I really do think, it's been really helpful for me today going through the RotoQL projections. Because what I did is I did my old strategy. I did my old, find out the information, go through the picks the way that I want to, do my research, and then I'll do my research with the RotoQL stuff, because that's the way I'm pivoting over. And what I felt was really good, because they were basically, the projections supported much more of my beliefs than any other projections I'd looked at that I went through my original thing. So I'm heavy on board on this RotoQL side of it tonight, and partly because they're playing contrarian. We have very different types of favorite plays over here on RotoQL than they do other places. So it's definitely a night where if you're a tournament player and you're a RotoQL subscriber, you're going to be off the board by following the projections alone, and that's a really, really good thing for tournaments, obviously. All right, let's take a quick look. There's some more things that people are popping in. Okay, so those are so. Oh, did I get my four? I guess I did name my core plays. If I like a side like the Celtics, might be a good idea to leverage. What low-owned Celtics? So they're all low-owned. I have Jaylen Brown currently sheets. I really do like on FanDuel both Hayward and Brown, and Kemba. I think Kemba's probably the best play of them on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it might be Jaylen Brown, just pricing considered, and it's a good Jaylen Brown environment, but I could see Kemba going off in this environment as well. Let's see. Let's see. Does the app and site correlate? Yeah, absolutely. They're on the same page here. The app is terrific, guys. It's so easy. It literally is like the easiest app I've looked at for DFS, at least that I can think of. Let's see. So Sheets has got a long thing here. The idea of being sports betting doesn't have ownership level. DFS. Yeah, Clarkson was a great play last night by Sheets, by the way. That was a great call. Any pay down at centers on FanDuel that I like. That's what I sort of went with. I went with this interesting PJ Tucker. It's a minutes thing. It's that without Capella there and all that, the rebounds. And there's honestly more usage and more three-point shots to go around now that we don't have Eric Gordon jacking up any shots. It's a good spot for the Rockets. I'm not sure how much I love it, but when you're talking about comparing him against everyone else, and I'll take a quick look to see where we have him on RotoQL. I think that's probably pretty relevant. Let's take a look here. We have PJ at barely over 5 times value. What's odd is that might be good enough tonight. Like, it's a weird center spot. Like, I think Harrell is a really interesting speculative play. Might have to go a little bit bigger against Philadelphia. Don't see Zubac lasting around long in this matchup. The minutes have been down. I don't see them going to more Jermichael Green. I actually think Harrell, when all is said and done, we look back at it, we might go, Montrezl Harrell really was the play, whereas everyone plays Steven Adams. Harrell is higher efficiency, lower projected minutes, higher minute ups. Well, same minute upside, but much higher on his projections. And I'm just going to take a quick look at where we have Harrell over here. I think that would be interesting before we get back into a few more BetQL sports bets that we really like. And we go into maybe one quick view of the site. We've got Montrez as actually a pretty good value here, and certainly a pretty unowned one. I have more interest on FanDuel because of position scarcity than I do on DK, but I definitely like him. And the more I think about it, the more I might start to do a little something with him. I don't think Markieff Morris is going to take all of his minutes. I just don't see this happen. Like, Montrezl Harrell is like he's a good player, man. I don't know. I'm not buying that one yet. I just can't get myself quite there. But let's see. Here we go. I'm just getting a few little updates here, guys. Nothing new. Just want to make sure that we're on top of everything. The projections over here. Let me just take a quick look. I want to take one more look at something. One other thing that we've got over here, like I just want to mention about the RotoQL stuff, the consistency, the percentage of of volume that that's consistent. Like, there's a lot of interesting stats that'll tell you if someone's safer. And sometimes people will just look at game logs and talk about someone being safe. Now, you don't necessarily want that, but you want someone in tournaments in general who's volatile if they're going to be low owned. You don't want someone who's volatile, which we have him as I'm giving away a little bit on RotoQL, But Ish Smith, we don't need. I mean, I could tell you that. We all know that. But if you look at it from that point of view, and Ish Smith, chalky and volatile, do we really need to do that? Whereas if we're going to play someone volatile, shouldn't that be someone that is not going to be chalky? It's pretty straightforward like that. And that's sort of what you're trying to do. You've got the volatile Derek White, but we've got, low-owned Derek White. At least what I think currently is going to be, and potentially with like a big usage boost. Patty Mills, extremely volatile, but 3,100, and actually has been more productive than some people realize, and with a nice solid one of the solid projections here on RotoQL today. Anyway, so those are just some guys I wanted to mention. We're going to get back over to a couple of betting plays, and again, it's going to be easier once we have all the things ironed out and we got the show streamlined and all that. This is the very beginning, so thanks for bearing with us, because I want to be able to show you all these screens and all the great things I can add. We can't at the time do that. Maybe at some point we'll have some shows for people who are members and stuff, and I'm sure that's where we're going to go, but we need to get you guys on this site, because again, I dropped the link in chat. It really is as good of as good as you can ask for in terms of both sports and DFS help out there in the industry from a projection standpoint. And you get my content too, so how about that? No, anyway, that's where we're at right now. Some other things that we've got to talk about. I'm going to take a quick look at, we mentioned some of the sharp picks. How about what the public's doing? So the public today is extremely heavy on the Wizards -3 against the Bulls. Not sure I want to go that route myself. Sort of feels like a game I want to stay away from in terms of betting who's going to win, but I would very much be interested in betting on for DFS purposes. The public is on the Celtics. Good job, public, against the spread, all that. It is interesting the Sharps are still on the Rockets a bit, but still interesting. I like this. I like the Celtics here. I think that's one of our bets of the day over here, so that's what we're going with. And the public is with us. Another one that I mentioned that I really like is the Thunder -9. Now the Sharps didn't, but the BetQL, we got the public bet at 61% on the Thunder -9. That's where I'm going. And you know what's funny is I actually see it that dropping down to 8.5 in some places. I really like the Thunder in this matchup, and I think that they run away with this one. The Clippers and Sixers, well, we have it as a high rating on the Clippers side. I just think that it's I don't know. I don't want to bet against the Sixers at home against good teams. I think that's where they thrive. They don't thrive against every other thing, every other situation, any road games and any really bad teams. They've beaten a lot of. They can beat good teams at home, and I actually think this is a really good matchup. Certainly a fun one to watch for regular just love of NBA, but not a fun, not necessarily as fun of a game to bet on for me as some of these others tonight for sure. Gonna get back into the chat and just see what you guys have been up to. Any centers on fan? Oh, that's I answered that one already. All right, hey, CJ, thank you very much for saying you love this. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you don't mind taking this moment, give us the thumbs up, the like, really appreciate it. Also, we're going to have more and more people coming in and out, but, I want you guys to ask your questions, to tell us your thoughts. Tell me what you think that I may be wrong with on my early lineup builds. Am I going to keep them? Tell me why I'm an idiot. Tell me why I'm a genius. Tell me whatever. Tell us what we could do for the show for you guys, how we can better highlight our sports betting and DFS betting, sites over here. And basically I'm giving away a lot of information, probably a little bit too much for free, but it gives you a little bit of a hint of some of the great things that, we can offer you here at BetQL. And look, there's only 5 games today, so we're probably not going to spend that much longer talking, but I want to remind you guys we'll be doing this every day. We're going to find a solid, consistent time after the All-Star break. Before then, we'll be sure to let you guys know. We'll hit you up via Twitter. You guys are hopefully already subscribed to my YouTube channel, and if not, you should be. And then we will be up on the QLTV very shortly. Anybody from the QL who's out there, if you want to just we'll give us an update whenever it does happen, and that way we can let the people know so we can keep this stuff going. But before we do get out of here, before we don't talk about, before I give all the information away that we've got on the betting side of that, I want to talk about some long shot bets. I think that there are some, like the 76ers, I thought of it tonight because they're playing, the Clippers. This is a team that I could see being really hard to beat in a 4 out of 7, even though they might end up as a 6 seed and going to the postseason. The reality is they were close to winning the title last year, especially if we would have gotten the same thing happen and all the injuries would have happened to the Warriors. They beat that. They were a bounce away from going to overtime in Game 7, and that would have been that was a game they actually played better, but Kawhi just turned into ultra Kawhi down the stretch and just was awesome. Um, I think the Sixers are an interesting long shot bet, and I just wanted to mention that. I don't think they're going to win the title. I think the odds you're getting is a little bit too good, but I do think they could also the odds of them winning the Eastern Conference I really like. And once they're there, like they have so much talent and so many guys who can play defense. They're so long and athletic, and even though they don't fit right, I think they're going to be hard to beat. So they're my long shot of the call it a long shot of the week if you want to make a home run here hitting type of bet on a potential to win the title this year. They actually should be worse odds than they are, but everybody knows how talented they are. But I think in a 4 out of 7, this is about as low as odds as you're going to get out of them. So 4 out of 7, you're going to have a hard time beating that team. They're just really strong. All right, guys. So let's see. Is Tatum a good cash play? No, I think that Tatum is an interesting tournament play, but I think it's a little too high price to pay for him in cash. But it's not like awful. I'm gonna take a quick look on our RotoQL where we have Tatum ranked, and I'm not gonna give you the exact percentage of where we have him, but we have him rated as a solid-ish play. But I don't think he's the guy I'd be going to for cash. I do have him in one of my tournament lineups with Westbrook. But I don't know that I'm going to. Actually, I don't even have Westbrook in that lineup, so that's something I would have to fiddle around with. If I'm going to play him, I would like it to be with Westbrook or Harden on the other side potentially. I'm going to take a quick look at some more of these things in here. Paul, SGA, Schroeder, Gallo, Adams, all cheap. OKC has a 9-point favorite. Do I think there's a contrarian edge for rostering one or two of them on this 5-game slate? Yes, I do. So I'm leaning with Gallo as being my guy. I don't think you're going to get low-owned Paul or SGA. I think they're going to be actually fairly highly owned. They're probably in the 20s, I would guess, as of right now, depending on what happens the rest of the day. Schroeder will be low-owned, but I don't like to play him as much when Gallo and Adams are both healthy. Adams makes a lot of sense, but I think that's where ownership's going to go as well. On a 5-game slate, I want to be a little bit more contrarian. I do like Gallo a lot. I think he's safe, and I think he's got upside even in this game that I think might blow out. And if it does blow out, these guys could still get there, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like I like some of these other big plays in the slate, and I'm taking a stand with, the Westbrook. I also want some Beal, and I want some Levine. I want some Paul George at low ownership. I want, some Embiid. I want some Zion. It's hard to get all those guys in and playing the 6,700 guys, which is why I'm sort of leaning a little bit more. In my balance builds, you might see as many as 2 of them, but I think mostly you're just going to see one OKC Thunder for this guy tonight. That's where I'm at as of right now. By the way, I really appreciate it. The second I say give us a like, at least 7 people gave us the like. So I'm just going to say it again. Hey, give us a like. See if we can keep this thing going. Again, ideas for the show, things that you need to know about BetQL, things you want to know about RotoQL. This is what we're going to be bringing you from here on. And honestly, if Westbrook goes off tonight and if my RotoQL lineup over here on the left, this wins everything. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to probably make some changes. We're probably going to get late information later in the day. If that happens, we'll have a thing set up later on, but at the moment, you can hit me up on Twitter and just ask me publicly because I can't do the DM thing. Too many people to respond to individually. If one person asks me in general, I can answer on Twitter. But with today's NBA, especially right before the All-Star break, we're going to get a lot of late information, as you saw last night. And how to adjust to that. A lot of the lineups that I have now and a lot of the love I have might change, especially from a value perspective, should something like that happen and something else open up. But again, these are still the core guys I want to go with. The guys you see with the 40-plus percentages on my list, those are the guys I'm probably going to find ways of playing regardless if we hear anything or not. So the other guys are a little bit more flexible. And I absolutely am adoring this build on the far left that I came up with using the BetQL site pre-show, the RotoQL site pre-show. And right now, I'm going to call it my RotoQL lineup. It'll be my first one. No matter what happens, I'll leave it in like some sort of a tournament, no matter what, and just be fun. Why not? Anyway, guys, more questions, more thoughts, more ideas, more likes. We got a couple more. That's right, it's working. If Ingram out, is Holiday a lock? Not a lock on DK for me. Certainly a strong play on both sites. I like him better on FanDuel. I think you can take a shot at JJ Redick. And that sounds weird, but he came through the other night in the same situation. I think Josh Hart would be probably the more desired play, and then Zion just continues to be a great play no matter what. So that's sort of the guys I think it would affect. Maybe you could argue that Drew becomes a little. I'm sorry that not Drew. Drew obviously is interesting. That's what the question was. But maybe you could argue that Lonzo would be a better play, and I think he would. I just think he's a better play on FanDuel, and I still don't love him. So it would affect things, but I would have to recrunch some of these numbers. So ask me if that comes up. If not, if Ingram does play, by the way, Ingram is a really, really strong tournament play. There's upside there. I don't mind playing him with Zion tonight, which is a little bit something that I get asked a lot, but tonight I think you can get away with it, especially smaller slate, high total game that we like the over on BetQL. We like it to go over. That's where we're at for right now. So again, keep getting some QQs in, throwing some thoughts out there. Obviously, later in the day seems to work a little bit better for you guys, so maybe that's something we can consider going forward. But I know also, getting these out there earlier, you guys can watch them later in the day. The only thing I would just encourage you to remember is this time of year, players do go out. If DeRozan is out tonight, which I do think he is going to be, so Lonnie Walker is going to be the mega shock. So Bryn Forbes is the pivot. I think you could play them together somewhat. And then the other pivot is Patty Mills. I will have exposure to all of them. And I didn't want to play a chalky Lonnie Walker at first, and then I'm on DraftKings where he's small forward eligible. I find myself having to do a little bit more of that than I initially desired. In fact, I'm going to correct something, and this is probably a flawed lineup, if for no other reason than this. I don't like I don't like using Lonnie Walker in a guard spot where I don't have to. So it feels like a waste not to play him as a forward, although on this lineup I don't think it would work, but I'll have to figure that out. I know that's kind of a tricky one for you guys. Any questions on that, let me know, but I'm happy to answer it. It's just basically the point guard position, I feel, and shooting guard position is very strong, and I just feel like it would be tough not to use Walker where he's intended, and that's at the forward spot tonight. I know I'm doing it with Jaylen Brown once, but that was supposed to be my one exception. I don't like breaking these rules, so I might have to change that one. Anyway, Lonnie Walker gets the edge over everyone because of the small forward eligibility, but the other ones, and also don't forget Trey Lyles is somewhat of an interesting pivot too. Like the minutes sort of fluctuating with him a little bit, but 3,500. I have 0 lineups right now with LaMarcus Aldridge. That's the fade I'm making. Scary, yes. He's the chalk for everybody, but look, it's a 5-game slate. I got strong takes on it. I'm going to go my way, and that's what we're going to do. And honestly, it's nice to see when a site, obviously we really like, just like every other site out there, the projections are going to not jump off the page for LaMarcus Aldridge. But they are jumping off the page less on RotoQL than they are elsewhere. I would just put it that way. As far as more sports betting goes, it is hard because we've only got, the NBA, and I'm not gonna pretend to be the NHL expert right now. I could talk about something else with baseball. We're gonna get into baseball season pretty soon. I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. I'm a Dodger fan, obviously, but it doesn't necessarily the best team who's going to win. There's some teams out there that maybe no one's looking at, or maybe people aren't looking at enough, that I think have really good chances to maybe have a turnaround season. One team that I think might pop out a little bit that no one thinks of. At least I think that we're looking more at the other teams in the NL East, but I think maybe we were 1 year, or I was 1 year off. The Nats obviously did everything last year, but I think that Phillies are going to have a little bit of a run this year. That's just a little bit of a bold early baseball call. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series, but they're certainly a team I would consider making some bets on, maybe win the division or something like that. Have to learn. Look, I'm still getting familiar with the BetQL side of this. This is our second day. I need to figure out in terms of those types of bets what exactly we have and how to find all these things right now. But one of the things you have right now, if you had to bet on a team to win the NBA title, we've actually got this up on our page. Who would it be? Would you have the Lakers, Bucks, and Clippers essentially all at the same odds? Who are you picking to win the title? So just write it in chat, and let's see how many people agree, because I bet you we're going to have a little discrepancy. And there's not like as many people as we had earlier in the show, but why don't you just throw in chat who you have out there, and then I'll tell you what sort of the consensus is over here. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to answer some questions because we're a little out of order here. Brown or Hayward if choosing one on FanDuel. If choosing one, I think it's slightly, I was leaning Brown just because I actually found myself needing a little bit more money than usual on FanDuel today, at least until we find out anything else. So I'm leaning a little Brown over Hayward over there. But anyway, get in there. Who's going to win the title? And then we will get out of here if you guys don't have any other questions after you catch up with this video. And I just want to remind you again, sign up for the RotoQL, BetQL. The link's in the chat. Use the code BobbyFi for your first month free. And if you don't like it, just quit. But I think you're going to find that you're getting a lot for what you're paying for. And it's certainly a really, really good way to go. Milwaukee Bucks we got from K Bronk. Okay, Milwaukee Bucks on the board. Playing at an all-time historic level. I like it. I'm struggling with this one myself, even as a Laker fan. But I think that in the year of Kobe Bryant, going to say that the Lakers win this one. All right, guys. Last time, likes, thumbs up. Go check out RotoQL, BetQL. If you have any questions, hit me up with it. I can find out anything for you. We touched on some of the highlights. Just to recap for some of you guys, in case you missed some of the parts of it, we have an astounding, for the first time, Russell Westbrook projected higher than James Harden for the first time this season on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We have Lonnie Walker and Robert Covington as our best values. We have Steven Adams and DeJounte Murray as our best FanDuel values. Sorry, those first two were our DraftKings values. We have our universal value on both sites, Chandler Hutchison, who I like. I worry a little bit about ceiling, but I think is a solid play and a guy I'm going to get in more lineups. I have him at 32% right now on DraftKings. And I think like 20% on written in my FanDuel script. The spreads, Celtics +2 at the Rockets. I like it. Boston 17-5 against the spread. Hard for me to make that bet myself. Probably won't do it, but because I'm a Rockets guy, I'm a Westbrook guy. So just go ahead and you guys make the bet and you take the money. And remember, I agree with it. And so do we at BetQL. We like the Clippers money line over the Sixers at -125. Phillies 24-2 at home. I'm not going to support that one, but that is on the best QL bets. And it's one I definitely could see happening, but I feel like that game is real close for me to try and take a stand that the Clippers are just going to win against a team that literally doesn't lose at home. That's just me. The total over, by the way, if it was between me when it comes to the actual bets, I would take BetQL's bets over mine. When it comes to the DFS part of it, we're going to combine it and figure out somewhere in a fine line in between. But we're mostly on the same page tonight, so I'm excited. This is our BetQL lineup night, so we're going to win all the money on RotoQL, and I'm going to throw in these bets on BetQL from BetQL also. I'm going to take the over in the Blazers-Pelicans game. That is our 3-star line of the day. Over hitting 5 straight road games for the Blazers. You really think it's going to slow down with the Pelicans? I don't think so. Let's keep that one going. That's where we're at. Taking a quick look in chat before we get out of here. Guys, thanks so much. Really appreciate everything. Got a lot of Bucks love over here. RotoQL has a promo code spot. I'm a little confused, Cody. If you scroll to the top of the chat, I dropped my promo code up there in the top. You can just enter that if you're going to sign up, and that would be the easiest way to go about it. Dan there in chat, if you have any more questions, he can probably answer that for you too. All right, guys. Hey, I really appreciate everything, and we are going to get out of here on that note. Again, remember our bets of the day. Take the biggest one, I think, is the biggest lock that we both, BetQL and I, agree on, is we want this over in this Portland game, basically. I think we need to, I would take that one up around 250. I think that's where we're going to end up with a monster score in that game. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are awesome. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards, guys. Go check out BetQL and RotoQL today.